So this last weekend, former 147-pound contender, 20-0 with 20 KOs, Vergil Ortiz Jr. defeated a Frederick Lawson via first-round controversial stoppage by Tony Weeks. Now, according to Tony Weeks, he was paying extra attention to Frederick Lawson because Frederick Lawson had some neurological issues, so the stoppage somewhat makes sense, but that's for another video. We're here to talk about how do you feel Vergil Ortiz Jr. matches up now at 154 pounds? Remember, former 140 pounder against the current WBO 154 pound champion Tsyzu, who I currently rank right now. I mean, Charlo is number one, but I would pick Tsyzu today to beat Jamel Charlo. I've been covering Tsyzu for the better part of 3+ years now, and I've seen, me and my colleague Big J was on the line right now, we've seen the growth and progression of the now 29-year-old Tsyzu, by the way, 24-0 with 17 KOs. Now, here's the thing, and Big J's going to go into it. This is his only fight at 154 pounds, barely went around. Credible, notable competition at 147 pounds. Aglidas Kavalaskis, Maurice Hooker, who was a former 140 pounder. Samuel Vargas, no matter how, depending on how you rate him. Brad Solomon, Antonio Roscoe, which right now, I would consider the number 2 best win of his career outside of Kavalaskis. But the skill set is why I say a Vergil Ortiz Jr. versus a Tsyzu is a 50-50 fight. I'm not saying, that, I would see the experience of Tsyzu and the size of Tsyzu, it's there. But this is my opinion. I understand how Aussie fans can get, especially Tsyzu fans, he's Superman, I get it. Very good fighter, not taking anything away from him. But I feel that Vergil Ortiz is going to be his rival. Not Errol Spence. By the way, Errol Spence had a recent surgery on his eye. According to today, we had to have some cataracts removed. So I don't trust Errol Spence at 154 pounds at all. Terrence Crawford, I don't ever see him fighting Tsyzu, but in this day and age, you never know. So I guess what I'm going to say is, after Vergil Ortiz defeated Frederick Lawson, he called out Tsyzu, surprisingly. And Golden Boy president and founder Oscar De La Hoya says that they're willing to go over to Australia to take the fight. And here's what Tsyzu posted on social media. Yo, Vergil Ortiz, welcome to the 54 Club. I'm always keen for a modern-day classic. So he was paying attention, watching the fight. Vergil Ortiz goes on to say, I knew you would be, man. Let's do it. So, Big J, to bring you in, first, what do you think about Vergil Ortiz Jr. as a fighter before we talk about the matchup against him and Tsyzu?
Well, I mean, I'll be honest, I don't really know much about this Vergil Ortiz guys, but the fact of the matter is that here is just another blown-up welterweight to, an unproven blown-up welterweight that Tsyzu doesn't need to fight. He would gain zero credibility beating Vergil Ortiz, and if he lost, it would be an absolute detriment to his career. So I don't see this fight happening because he's not ranked, so it's not going to happen for a while. If it does happen, he's going to probably have to have a belt. Tim is at that stage in his career where his only fights now are going to be world title fights against top-tier competition, not some... he's fought... How many blown-up welterweights has he fought already? I mean, how long did we criticise him for fighting blown-up welterweights?
Yeah.
2 years?
Yeah.
What? Well, let's rack off the names. Jeff Horn, Jack Brubaker, Devin Vessel,
Stevie
Owen
Spark.
Morgan. Sparky was a 140, but a short, a week,
Mm-hmm.
on a week, on notice replay. So I don't really count Sparky because that was a week, a short notice replacement for Mixerappa, so I don't really count Sparky. But still, blown up 140er. So there's 5 guys that were had virtually no fights at 154, and Tsyzu crushed them. So,
but if you look at Tsyzu's last 4, though, they've been all 154. Terrell Goucher, natural 154 pounder. Tony Harrison, natural 154 pounder. Carlos Ocampo had been at 154 for several years after losing to Errol Spence in Errol Spence's first title defense at 147, and then Brian Mendoza, who chopped down big Sebastian Fundora. So, we do have to give him that. Oh, and Takashi Inoue. So that's 5 straight 154 pounders in the last 2 years.
Terrell Goucher.
Yeah.
Terrell Goucher.
It was like he started, so it was Takashi Inoue, November of 2021, then Terrell Goucher, Tony Harrison, Carlos Ocampo, Brian Mendoza. Now, Vergil Ortiz, this was his first fight at 154, period. He's a former 40 pounder. So Vergil Ortiz only had officially 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 fights at 147 pounds until now, fighting at 154. Which, by the way, he weighed in at 156. So I'm guessing it was clearly a catch weight.
Exactly. So it wasn't even officially a 154 fight.
Yeah. So you do have, we don't know what's going on with Jermell Charlo, controversial story involving him, but we're going to leave that alone. But basically, I guess we can say he's going to be out for some time. Don't be surprised if you don't see him to the end of this year. Remember, PBC is not going to have any cards until March of this year, and right now it's January 8th. So, but he's the WBC currently in the WBA. I don't expect him being stripped. The WBA will likely make him, if pushed, the WBA champion in recess. And the WBC, I just don't see it happening. I wouldn't be surprised if they make him. They won't make him a franchise, but I just don't see them stripping him, especially when you look at the Jamal Charlo situation or how long he held the belt. But the interesting belt right now is the IBF with Bakram Murtazaliev versus Jack Culcay, who are in talks to have that fight, and that fight may go to a purse bid. So you had an interesting idea about that fight. Can you tell the viewers what you were talking about earlier?
Yeah, not my idea. A mate of mine rang me up the other day and said this could be a possibility. I said, well, it's a brilliant idea, actually. No limit for a business decision would be wise to secure the Bakram Murtazaliev Jack Culcay fight and then put that on the undercard of Tim's next fight to build up a unification bout for the winner. Now, Bakram Murtazaliev has been on PBC undercards. What? How many? Bloody
several years now. I'm looking at his resume right now.
How many dark matches? How many step-aside agreements, dark matches he had? Like 3 or 4.
It was 3.
Yeah. Who's Jack Culcay with? Do we even know?
No. I believe he's with a German promoter. If I'm correct, Silent Promotions. But
that sounds about right.
But I'll check. I have everything. I have that stuff pulled up on the screen.
Yeah. So if no limits secure the rights to that fight, that pretty much writes itself. They can secure it, put it on the Tim's next fight, and then that builds up the unification bout. So,
so the purse bid is for the 11th, by the way. The purse bid is Thursday. It's January the 8th right now. Right. I have the article right here.
So, what I also find interesting is why Tim even acknowledged Vergil Ortiz Jr. on Twitter. It makes me think maybe the Lubin fight's not done yet because there's been lots of talk that he's going to fight Erickson Lubin in Vegas, or that's the intention. That fight needs to be announced pretty quick because it's already January 9th here in Australia. If No Limit want to promote the fight or get people to travel to Vegas for the fight, or the Australian fans anyway, in conjunction with the NRL season kickoff, which we've talked about many, many times, they want to hurry up because it's...
you want to give people time to travel, yeah.
Exactly. So I don't actually see the Vegas fight happening because, as I said, if they're associated with PBC or the American Broad, they wouldn't give 2 fucks about the NRL. They wouldn't even know what it was, for starters.
Yeah.
Yes. The only reason you know what the NRL is because of me.
You, yeah.
So, exactly. And have you ever watched the game? I don't think you've ever seen a game, have you? You wouldn't even know.
I probably, if it was on or around, I probably wouldn't even. I would just know soccer's on.
Yeah, well, yeah. Soccer's a lot different than the NRL.
Exactly. That's the point. That's the point. It's the National Rugby League, but if I see it on TV, I'm like, oh, soccer. I wouldn't be paying attention. I wouldn't know what I was watching.
Yeah, well, it's a very, very simple game. Grab the ball, run into him, put it over the line, kick it in between the posts. Very simple.
Gotcha.
Sort of similar to the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, it's hard to explain. Anyway, yeah. So I don't actually. As more and more time goes on, I am less and less confident that the Vegas fight is going to happen. So.
And also, we don't know what Tsyzu's broadcast situation over here is in the States. Because let's face it, PBC and Charlo did kind of screw him over. He was waiting for that fight, and then Charlo goes and fights Canelo. So you have to wonder if there's some bad blood there, or maybe Tsyzu's contract is up with PBC. Because last I remember, it was a 3-fight deal, from my understanding. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. But, who knows? Maybe that may have fell apart. Maybe they're like, listen, we're always waiting around. And didn't at one point in time, they cost Zeus some time. Something happened where he was on a layoff, right, because of them, or was it the injury with his hand?
No, it was the injury with his hand.
Okay.
Yeah, but 2022, Zoo only had one fight because he fought in America, and then last year he had the 3 fights. And I've always argued the point, what is the fascination with fighting in Vegas? I mean, New York is just as good a place, if probably not better to fight. And here's the other thing. American fans don't know nor really care who Tsyzu is.
For real.
Here's the thing. When he fought Tony Harrison, he fought in Kudos Bank Arena.
Mm-hmm.
That holds 21,000 people. What was the crowd attendance for that fight?
I forgot. You say like 12 or something? Was it 8?
No, it was about 12 and a half.
12, okay.
12 and a half. So he can't sell out stadiums here. How the fuck's he going to do it in Vegas?
It's kind of similar to Conor Benn is headlining a card in Vegas next month. It's like, what? Nobody knows who Conor Benn is here. Devin Haney can't even headline a card in Vegas. I forgot what fight it was. A couple of fights ago. His last fight on I forgot what fight it was. But anyway, he can't even sell out. So, Tsyzu, I don't know what he's thinking he's going to plan on doing unless it's a super big fight that fans would travel over for. It's not like, Horn versus Pacquiao or something. If that fight would have happened in the States, I'm sure Australian fans would have traveled over. But yeah, but listen, they must have some type of plan, but you don't hear nobody talk about, oh yeah, Tsyzu's fighting over here. He's coming over to the States. Tsyzu's coming,
Exactly. And he would make, we've discussed this before. No Limits model for making revenue is small venues, less people, high pay-per-view buys.
Mm-hmm.
That's their model. And that obviously works pretty well because on average, he sells about 100,000 pay-per-views. At $60 a pop, there's $6 million in revenue.
Yeah.
So, and from what I'm hearing, Tim's getting north of $1.5 million a fight, fighting at home.
Yeah.
So, why the hell would he want to travel all the way overseas? I understand he wants to do it because that's what his father did and blah, blah, blah. And, he wants to follow in his father's footsteps.
There's a different landscape now.
That. Yeah, but he's better off fighting at home. Because if these guys are prepared to come to Australia, which they are because plenty of them have, why travel all the way over to bloody Vegas? And let's not forget, Australians' record in Vegas is fucking shocking. Right? Name me one Australian in the last 20 years to have a big win overseas besides George beating Lopez. I'll wait. Yeah,
I can't. Can't at all.
Yeah, you have to do your research. Australians' record in America is fucking abysmal. Abysmal. Right? Daniel Gill got screwed against Darren Barker in Vegas whenever that was, 10 or so years ago. We don't do very well in America, especially for world title fights. Jeff Horn got the shit kicked out of him by Crawford. So, the only person to have a big win in overseas from Australia is George. Because, you'd have to do some research, but off the top of my head, statistically wise, we don't do very well overseas in world title fights. So, especially in America, we've got success, in Britain and other places, in Germany, but in America, we don't do very well. So, but it's sort of hard to understand the fascination with it. If you can make more money fighting at home and people have to travel, which is an advantage for us because, traveling to Australia. We're in the middle of bumfuck nowhere.
Yeah,
It's
even
a long flight.
listen to this. Even Daniel Gill back in 2013 came over for his first fight in the States in Atlantic City, and he lost to a British fighter in Atlantic City. His first
Darren
fight
Barker, that was the one I just mentioned. Yeah, and that was a controversial decision.
Still, he
Darren
lost
Barker
though.
got knocked. Yeah, and Darren Barker got knocked down in the 60. Everyone thought that was a screw job.
Yeah, I remember this fight barely. I remember barely though. I remember this.
Yeah. So, yeah, I thought that was Vegas. Sorry, that was Atlantic City. So that's in Jersey, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm looking it up. I just looked it up.
Yeah, so I thought it was in Vegas, but besides the point, Australian in America, world title fight, he lost. So that's normally the way it goes. I mean, Jeff, as I said, Jeff got pummeled by Crawford. There's a few other guys that have had some cracks, no good. I think maybe Billy Dibb had some success with his featherweight title about 10 or so years ago. Yeah, but I don't think he won. I don't think it was a big Vegas fight, but besides the point.
So the NRL game is on the 2nd, right? That weekend is going to be on the 2nd. What weekend is that?
Yes.
Oh well, no, yeah. Well, something has to be announced like this week.
Yeah.
Like in the next, like, because it's what? It's now what 7 weeks away.
Yeah, exactly. I don't see.
And then February's a short month.
Yeah, I don't see the Tsyzu fight happening on that Friday anyway.
Yeah.
It's either going to be the week before or the week after.
Yeah.
So, and it would have to be the week before because the Australian fans, especially the ones that want to go watch the NRL, aren't going to go there, watch the game and stay a week to watch the fight because they'll come back and want to watch the footy.
Yeah.
So yeah. I mean, the longer it waits, the less likely I think it's going to happen, which is unfortunate. But have we heard any news from Erickson Lubin about?
Nope. I checked. He hasn't said anything. Nope. Been silent. But that's all the PBC fighters. They can't say anything because they got that new deal coming, and it's supposed to be. It's not just Amazon. I'm hearing 2 other networks too. So Tsyzu could be involved in that. We don't know what is like if he's still with PBC or not. It'd be great if somebody can ask him or his team. If they're still going to be stateside broadcasts on PBC platforms.
But yeah, the
that's
Vergil
important. That's some really important information.
Exactly. But the Vergil Ortiz fight at this point is, really pointless because it's a lose-lose for Tim because if he wins, okay, another blown-up welterweight, yeah, okay, you've beaten like 6 of them. And if he loses, it's like a massive detriment to his career. So,
yeah, because it's like you didn't have to fight him, and he don't have a belt either.
Exactly. He's never even competed for a belt. So why would you even acknowledge this kid?
My gut is telling me because Charlo's not going to do it. I don't see. I mean, he might. We don't. But my gut is telling me Tsyzu's team, and we've seen how aggressive they can be. They're going to target that unification for the IBF.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
And then that purse bid is in on Thursday. So I'm going to be we need to pay attention to that because what if No Limit just say we're going to just pull it out of nowhere. We want that fight.
And that would be a very wise business decision. Very wise. Yeah. And I hope they do get it because I'm like, well, if you want to make traction on the world scene, that's the perfect way to do
it. Yeah. And, they have been aggressive. And clearly with all the money they're making from these outrageous pay-per-views with headlined by Nikita Tszyu, they got some money sitting around and won a purse bid. And also, they're getting the money from main events. So main event makers are like, look, let's put something in to get this fight. Let's get this over in Australia on undercard of Tsyzu's.
Yeah, that's what I see happening. So,
closing thoughts.
I really hope that No Limit does secure the Murtazaliev Culcay fight. But Vergil Ortiz, unless he has a belt, I don't think Tim's going to fight him. I mean, what would be the point? Unless he's mandatory, I don't see the point. So, we'll stay tuned. See what happens. And I'd like to see Vergil Ortiz actually fight some ranked competition because he's got to prove himself at 154.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't just have one fight at 154 and call out the champion. I mean, like, come on, mate. That's a little bit embarrassing.
Yeah. That's true. I can understand that part. But we're gonna see. We're gonna see where he ranks. Because right now he's only ranked by the WBA, which is natural. He was on a WBA route. At 147. Next in line would be for the WBO. It'd be like he can't jump the line there, so he can't just become mandatory. So Tsyzu
No,
would have to
no.
pick him, or he would have to have a belt and be a unification.
Exactly, and I don't see that happening anytime soon.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
but good luck to him anyway.
yeah. Well, with that being said, we will be back with another video soon. Especially with what's going on with this weekend with the Maloney on the undercard of Artur Beterbiev versus Colin Smith. You can follow me at TstreeT Controversy and Big J at Old Mate Big J on Twitter. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe.